Most people don't speak up because they think they're not good enough. They're afraid of saying the wrong thing, sounding awkward or being judged. So they stay quiet. They hide their thoughts. They avoid conversations that could change their life. But here's the truth. Confidence is not something you're born with. It's something you build, step by step. You build it by showing up, by saying what you need to say, and by not backing down when the moment feels uncomfortable. This audiobook will teach you how to speak to anyone with confident energy, real, honest, simple confidence that feels natural, not forced. You won't learn tricks. You'll learn how to change how you think, how you carry yourself, and how you use your voice like it matters. Because it does. If you're tired of feeling nervous around people, if you're ready to stop doubting yourself, this is for you. It's time to speak like you believe in yourself. Chapter 1. Speak first so your fear doesn't speak for you. You want to learn how to speak to anyone with confidence. You want to stop feeling stuck, silent, or unsure in conversations. You want to walk into a room and speak, not freeze. That's good. That's the right place to begin. Because every improvement in your life starts with a decision to take control. And one of the most powerful decisions you can make is to speak first, so your fear doesn't speak for you. Fear loves silence. It thrives in hesitation. When you wait, it grows. When you hold back, it takes over. And before you know it, your fear has taken your place. Your voice is gone, your presence is hidden, and your moment has passed. So what do? You speak first. You don't wait to feel ready. You don't wait for the perfect words. You speak. You say hello. You ask a question. You introduce yourself. That small action breaks the pattern. It interrupts the fear, and it tells your mind, I'm in control now. Speaking first is not about being perfect. It's not about being clever. It's not about impressing anyone. It's about taking responsibility for your presence. It's about taking a small but firm step forward and saying, I belong here. Most people wait too long. They wait for the other person to speak. They wait for a signal. They wait until they feel confident. But waiting is the enemy, because fear never goes away on its own. It waits with you. It waits inside the silence. And the longer you wait, the stronger it gets. So you must decide right now that when you feel the fear, you'll move first. You might feel your heart beating fast. You might feel your hands shake. You might feel the heat in your face or the tightness in your chest. That's normal. That's not failure. That's your body reacting. That's energy. That's your mind waking up, and you can still speak through it. Confidence doesn't come from never feeling nervous. Confidence comes from doing what needs to be done, even while you feel it. The first time, your voice might crack. The second time, you might stutter. But if you keep going, if you keep speaking first, it will get easier. And one day, you'll speak without fear. You'll speak because it's who you are now. So how do you start? You start small. You walk into a room and you greet someone. Hi, how are you? Not because you feel brave, but because you want to grow. You pass someone in the hallway and instead of looking away, you say, good morning. You go to a store and instead of staying silent at the counter, you say, how's your day going? These are simple acts, but they build your confidence, they strengthen your identity, and they change how you see yourself, because every time you speak first, you are telling yourself something. You are saying, I can do this. I am someone who speaks. I am someone who belongs. And when you do it often enough, your identity starts to change. You stop identifying with fear. You stop acting like someone who is afraid. And you start showing up like someone who is present, someone who owns the room, someone who leads. You don't have to say something amazing. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to start. You can say something simple. You can say something honest. You can ask a question. but you need to say something, because silence is where fear wins. This is not about being loud. This is not about dominating the room. This is about knowing that your words matter, that your presence matters, that you don't need to wait for permission to speak. You don't need to hope someone talks to you. You go first, and in doing so, you grow. Speaking first isn't always easy. You'll be misunderstood sometimes. People won't always respond how you want. You'll make mistakes, but that's not failure. That's progress. That's growth. That's the real path to confidence. Not perfect moments, but consistent effort. You learn by doing. You grow by showing up. You might feel like others have more natural confidence than you. You might think they were born that way. But the truth is, most confident people started where you are. Unsure, nervous, quiet. The only difference is they decided to speak first. They decided to practice. They decided not to let fear speak in their place. Fear has no right to speak for you. It has no right to hold your words. It has no right to control your life, but it will if you let it. So speak before it does. Say the first word. Break the silence. Because the moment you do, you reclaim your power. Your life will change when you decide to stop hiding. When you stop letting other people's energy determine your energy. When you stop walking into rooms and shrinking yourself. And the most practical way to begin that change is to speak first. If someone walks by, speak first. If you enter a group, speak first. If a moment feels uncomfortable, speak first. Because that decision sets the tone, not just for that moment, but for who you are becoming. You don't build confidence in your head, you build it in action. And no action is more powerful than using your voice when it's hard. Because once you do that, there's very little you can't do. Don't let fear shape your future. Don't let it speak in your place. Don't let it make you small. Speak first, speak often, speak honestly, and do it again. Because with every word you are not just talking, you are training yourself to become someone you can be proud of. Confidence is not loud. Confidence is calm. It's grounded. It's honest. And it begins with action. Your voice is one of your greatest tools in life, but only if you use it, only if you trust it, and only if you refuse to let fear take your place. So today, wherever you go, whoever you meet, don't wait, don't hold back. Speak first, and watch what happens to your confidence, your energy, and your life. Chapter 2. Start talking before your mind creates fake pressure. You know what holds most people back from speaking? It's not a lack of words. It's not that they don't know what to say. It's what happens in the seconds before they say it. It's the thoughts that show up too quickly and too loud. It's the pressure their mind creates. The what-ifs, the overthinking, the endless self-judgment. And that pressure isn't real. It's fake. It's created in the mind, not in the moment. That's why you must start talking before your mind has the chance to build that pressure. When you walk into a situation, whether it's meeting someone new, speaking in a group, or even making a simple comment, your brain wants to pause. It wants to run simulations. It wants to predict every possible outcome. And that hesitation gives fear room to grow. It gives anxiety the space to build. And suddenly, what could have been a simple sentence becomes a stressful event. You don't need more time to think. You don't need to plan a perfect sentence. You need to move. You need to speak while the moment is real, while it's raw, while it's still yours, because the longer you wait, the more pressure you create. And that pressure, it's not coming from other people. It's not coming from the world. It's coming from you. You start thinking things like, what if I sound weird? Or what if they don't like what I say? You begin to imagine that one sentence might change how people view you, and that kind of thinking, it paralyzes, it traps you in your head, and life doesn't happen in your head. It happens out loud. It happens through action. It happens through words. Think about how many moments you've lost just sitting in silence, planning to say something but never doing it. How many connections you missed. How many times you looked back and thought, I should have just said something. That's not just missed opportunity. That's you giving your power to fear. And the cost adds up. When you speak before the pressure builds, you take back your power. You stop giving your mind the time to trick you. Because that's what it does. It tricks you into believing that your words have to be perfect, that your presence has to be flawless, that if you make one mistake, everything will fall apart. But that's not true. People don't remember perfection. They remember energy. They remember presence. They remember honesty. So instead of rehearsing a perfect line in your head, just talk. Just get the words out, even if it's not polished, even if it's not perfect. Because once you've said something, the pressure is gone, and you realize it was never as bad as you imagined. You don't learn confidence by watching others speak. You don't build it by sitting in silence and waiting for courage to appear. You develop it by opening your mouth before fear locks it shut. You grow when you act without waiting for a green light from your thoughts. Your thoughts are not always on your side. Sometimes your thoughts want to keep you safe. But safe can also mean small. Safe can mean unseen. Safe can mean unheard. And if you want to grow, if you want to speak with real confidence, you can't let that version of safe run your life. Think about a time when you hesitated to speak and walked away from that moment. How did that feel? That sinking feeling in your chest? That regret in your gut? That frustration with yourself? That's the result of pressure winning. That's what happens when you pause and let your mind take over. It hurts. Not because something bad happened, but because nothing happened. And you wanted it to. Now think about a moment when you said something without overthinking it. Maybe it was short, maybe it was simple, but you said it. You moved, you acted, and even if it wasn't perfect, you felt proud. You felt alive. Because that's what confidence feels like. Not the absence of nerves, but the presence of action. Even small action. And this isn't about being reckless. It's not about talking over people. It's not about speaking just to make noise. It's about learning to trust yourself before doubt gets in the way. It's about creating a habit, one that rewires your brain to act instead of analyze. When you practice speaking quickly, without letting pressure build, you begin to notice something. You feel lighter. You feel stronger. You don't carry the weight of every possible scenario. You don't exhaust yourself before you even say a word. You just speak. You express. You show up. And that's powerful. If you keep doing this, your mind starts to change. It learns that there's nothing dangerous about saying what you think. It learns that most people aren't judging you. It learns that even if you mess up, the world keeps moving, and you do too. This is how you begin to trust your voice, not by protecting it, but by using it. Over and over again, in small ways, in everyday conversations. You speak in a meeting, you ask a question in class, you comment during a discussion. You reach out to someone instead of waiting for them to come to you. And here's the truth. Most people are too busy worrying about themselves to be judging you. Most people are inside their own head, dealing with their own pressure. And when you speak up first, you often give them permission to do the same. You lead. You create space. And that's something to be proud of. But none of this works if you don't act quickly. That's the key. That window between the thought and the action, it's small. If you don't move in that space, your mind fills it with fear. So practice shrinking that gap. Practice speaking while the energy is still fresh. Practice catching yourself before hesitation sets in. You don't have to be loud to be confident. You just have to be real. You just have to be present. You just have to be willing to move forward before fear tells you to stop. So next time you feel it, next time you want to say something, next time you feel that slight push in your chest to speak, don't wait. Don't check your words 5 times in your mind. Don't picture all the wrong outcomes. Just say it. Just speak. You'll learn faster, you'll grow stronger, and you'll finally stop letting pressure decide your voice. Because your voice is too important to waste on overthinking. It's too powerful to leave sitting behind silence. Use it before your doubts take over. Speak now, while the moment still belongs to you. Chapter 3. Say your name like it actually matters to you. When you say your name, you're not just introducing yourself. You're telling the world who you are. And how you say it tells people how you feel about yourself. Most people don't realize this. They say their name quietly, like it doesn't carry weight. They rush through it like it's just a formality. They say it with hesitation, like they don't fully believe in it. But when you say your name like it actually matters, everything shifts. Because you're not just speaking, you're standing behind something. You're claiming space. You're owning your identity. You've probably seen it before. One person says their name and it lands. The other says it and it disappears. What's the difference? It's not the name. It's the energy. It's the way they say it. It's what's behind their voice. You can hear confidence. You can feel certainty. And you can also sense when someone is unsure. You can hear when someone has learned to shrink themselves. That's why this matters. If you don't take your name seriously, why should anyone else? If you don't own your identity, you'll spend your life waiting for someone else to give you permission to be yourself. And that's no way to live. You were given a name for a reason. And now you have the responsibility to represent it with strength, with belief, and with pride. When you introduce yourself, your name is the first message you send. That moment sets the tone. So if you mumble it, if you trail off, if you say it like you want to get it over with, what are you really saying? You're saying, I don't want to be seen. You're saying, I'm not sure I belong here. You're saying, I'm not ready to stand behind myself, and whether people realize it or not, they respond to that energy. Confidence isn't just about body language or it starts with the way you introduce yourself. Because in that moment, you're not just sharing information. You're setting a standard. You're showing people how to treat you. If you don't say your name like it matters, you're telling people it doesn't. And once you do that, you make it easy for others to overlook you. But here's the good news. This is something you can change. It doesn't take talent. It doesn't take years of experience. It takes awareness. It takes intention. And it takes the decision to start speaking like you believe in the person behind the name. Not fake confidence. Not arrogance. Just clarity. Just presence, just a quiet strength that says, this is who I am, and I'm not afraid of being seen. Practice saying your name with meaning. Say it out loud. Say it in the mirror. Say it until it feels like it belongs to someone who matters, not because you're trying to impress people, but because you're trying to remind yourself. You're reminding yourself that you are someone worth knowing, someone worth listening to, someone who doesn't need to shrink their voice just to be safe. And yes, at first it might feel strange. If you're used to hiding behind silence or keeping your voice small, saying your name with strength might feel like too much. But it's not. It's exactly what you need. Because speaking your name with confidence is the first step to becoming the kind of person who lives with confidence, the kind of person who shows up fully, the kind of person who doesn't wait for approval. It's not about being loud, it's not about exaggerating, it's about being direct, clear, grounded. When someone asks what's your name, you don't pause, you don't apologize, you don't explain, you just say it, with weight, with conviction, like you're introducing someone important. Because you are. When you do this consistently, something changes inside you. You stop avoiding moments where you have to speak. You stop second-guessing your worth, you start acting like someone who belongs, and you don't need anyone to validate it, you already know. Your name is not just a label. It's your first impression. It's your voice showing up before the rest of you does. And you get to decide what kind of energy it carries. You can let fear shape it, or you can shape it yourself. There are people who will forget your face. They'll forget what you wore, but they will remember how you showed up. They'll remember how they felt when you said your name. And if you say it with presence, if you say it like it matters, they'll remember you. You don't need to change who you are. You don't need to pretend. You just need to stop treating yourself like an afterthought. You've done that long enough. You've stayed quiet when you had something to say. You've waited for people to notice you instead of standing up and being seen. That stops now. Start with the basics. Say your name with pride. Say it like you're not afraid to be known. Say it like you matter. Because you do. And when you do this in conversation, people pay attention. They feel your presence. They take you seriously because people follow your lead. If you treat yourself with respect, others usually will too. And this goes deeper than introductions. When you learn to speak your name with strength, it starts to spill over into everything. You speak your opinions more clearly. You express your needs without guilt. You stop apologizing for being in the room, and the people around you respond not because you're demanding anything, but because you carry yourself like someone who knows their value. That kind of energy changes how you live. You stop holding back. You stop shrinking. You stop hiding behind hesitation. You begin to trust yourself. And that trust builds momentum. It shows up in your conversations, in your posture, in your decisions. It becomes part of who you are. You don't need to wait for confidence to show up. You don't need to earn it. You need to decide. Decide that your voice matters. Decide that your presence is enough. Decide that your name isn't something to rush through. It's something to own. From now on, treat every introduction like a chance to stand behind yourself. You're not just speaking words, you're sending a message. You're saying, I'm here, I count, I have a voice. And that message is more powerful than you think. You don't get moments back, so use them. Every time you say your name, say it like it means something, because it does. And when you believe that, really believe it, other people will believe it too. That's how confidence grows, not from outside approval, but from inner belief. So wherever you go, whoever you meet, whatever the situation, when it's time to say your name, speak it like it belongs to someone who matters, because it does, and you do. Chapter 4. Keep talking even when your voice feels small inside. There are moments in life when your voice doesn't feel strong. It feels shaky. It feels too quiet. It feels like it doesn't carry enough weight. And in those moments, the easy thing to do is to stop, to back down, to stay quiet. But those are the moments where the most growth happens. The moment your voice feels small inside, but you choose to keep talking anyway. That's the moment you start becoming the person you want to be. Everyone wants to feel confident before they speak. They want to feel full of energy, clear, unshakable. But that's not how it works. Confidence comes after action. It's built through experience, not before it. So when your voice feels weak and you keep talking, you're building the very confidence you've been waiting for. You're not pretending to be strong, you're practicing it. And that's how it becomes real. You don't need to sound powerful to be powerful. You don't need a loud voice to make a real impact. What you need is consistency. You need to keep speaking when it's uncomfortable. You need to stop letting that small feeling stop your words. Because the more you stop yourself, the more you reinforce the idea that your voice isn't enough. And that's not true. Your voice might not sound bold today, but that doesn't mean it's not worth hearing. It means it needs use, it needs air, it needs your permission. Most people don't even realize how often they silence themselves. In conversations, in meetings, in moments where they had something valuable to say but didn't. Why? Because they didn't feel confident enough. Because they didn't feel ready. But that feeling of not being ready, that's fear talking. That's the habit of holding back. And the only way to break that habit is to speak even when the fear is still there. The feeling of a small voice is just a symptom of self-doubt. It's not a final judgment. It's a signal that you're entering a space that matters to you. You care. You want to be understood. You don't want to be dismissed. That's human. That's not weakness. But you can't let that feeling sit in the driver's seat. If you do, you'll stay quiet, and that silence will turn into frustration, regret, and eventually a belief that you're just not the kind of person who speaks up. But that's not who you are. You're just someone who needs practice staying in the moment. You don't need to push your voice louder than it is. You just need to hold your place. Speak your truth, even if it shakes a little. Say what you feel, even if it's not polished. Finish your sentence, even if it comes out soft. Because what matters is that you didn't walk away from yourself. You stayed in it. You gave your words a chance. You gave yourself a chance. It's easy to admire someone who speaks with confidence, but what you don't always see is the years of quiet moments they fought through to get there. The number of times they kept talking even when their voice didn't feel strong. What you see now is the result. What you don't see is the choice they made, again and again, not to let that small feeling stop them. You can do the same. And you must. Because the life you want, the relationships you want, the respect you want, those things are built through presence, through being willing to speak, through showing people who you are, not just thinking about what you could say. When your voice feels small, it's tempting to believe that what you say doesn't matter, that other people sound smarter, clearer, better. But that's comparison, that's not truth. Everyone started somewhere, and most of them started in the same place you are. Unsure, hesitant, quiet. The difference is they didn't quit. They kept using their voice, not to impress, but to grow. It takes courage to speak when you're unsure. It takes strength to finish your thoughts when your heart is racing. That's real strength. That's how confidence is earned. And when you keep showing up like that, something begins to change inside you. Your nervous energy doesn't disappear, but it doesn't control you anymore. Your voice might still feel small sometimes, but it doesn't stop you anymore. That shift is everything. Because once you stop backing down, the fear starts to lose its grip. And every time you speak when it's hard, your identity starts to shift. You go from being someone who doubts themselves to someone who shows up anyway. And that person, that's the one people respect. That's the person others want to follow. Not because you're the loudest in the room, but because you have something real inside you, and you're not afraid to share it. You don't need to fix your voice. You need to believe in it. You need to use it. You need to stop judging it before anyone else even hears it. Your words matter, not because they're perfect, but because they're yours. And the only way people will ever get to know who you are is if you give them something to hear. You'll have awkward moments. You'll say things and wish you'd said them differently. That's part of it. That's called growing. But what's worse than saying the wrong thing? Saying nothing. Holding back and living with the weight of words you never gave yourself permission to speak. This is your life, your conversations, your chances to connect. And you don't get those moments back, so use them. Even when your voice feels small, even when your confidence isn't where you want it to be. Speak anyway, because you'll never become confident by staying silent. And you're not alone. Most people feel this at some point. Most people question their voice. Most people feel nervous. But the difference between those who stay stuck and those who move forward is simple. The ones who move forward don't wait for the perfect voice. They use the one they have. They build strength through use. And so can you. Next time you're in a room and you feel the pressure building, pause and speak anyway. Next time someone asks for your opinion, don't filter yourself to fit in. Say what you think. Next time you feel like your voice isn't enough, remember it's not about volume, it's about courage. You don't have to overpower anyone. You just have to show up with honesty. You've got something to say, and your voice, even if it feels quiet today, is more powerful than you think. Keep using it. Keep talking. Keep showing up for yourself. Because over time, that small voice will grow. It will steady. It will carry your truth with strength, and the world will hear it. But only if you keep going.
Chapter 5. Train your brain to stop creating fake fear stories. Your brain is powerful. It can build your future, and it can also destroy your present. One of the biggest reasons people stay quiet, hide from opportunity, or avoid growth is because their brain has been trained to create fear stories that aren't even real, not based on facts, not based on truth, just made-up situations that keep you stuck. And until you recognize this pattern and take control of it, it will continue to control you. Most of the fear you feel when you're about to speak to someone isn't about what's happening, it's about what your brain thinks might happen. You haven't even said a word, and your mind has already written a full script of failure. It tells you people will laugh at you. It says you'll embarrass yourself. It says you'll be judged, ignored, or rejected. But none of this has actually happened. It's just a mental movie, and you believe it, not because it's true, but because it feels familiar. Your brain is not your enemy, but it works off of repetition. What you think about most, it starts to believe. And if you've spent years avoiding situations, hiding from discomfort, staying quiet instead of speaking, your brain has gotten used to that pattern. It thinks silence is safety. It thinks avoidance is protection. But that's not protection, that's limitation. That's how people become smaller without even realizing it. To move forward, you have to retrain your brain. You have to challenge every fearful thought that shows up uninvited. When your mind says, "Don't speak, they'll judge you," ask it, "Where's the proof?" When it says, "You're not good enough to join that conversation," ask, "Who decided that?" You start breaking the cycle when you stop accepting every fearful thought as the truth. It starts with awareness. Catch your brain in the act. You walk into a room and your chest tightens. Your brain starts filling in blanks. It says, "Don't say anything, you'll sound dumb." Stop right there. That thought is a lie. It's not a prediction, it's a fear. And the only way to break it is to do the opposite. You speak anyway. You say one sentence. You ask one question. You remind your brain that you are not its prisoner. You have to become the trainer, not the trainee. Every time a fear story shows up, you don't have to accept it. You don't have to believe it. Thoughts are not commands. You can hear them and move anyway. You can feel the fear and act anyway. You can step forward while your brain begs you to retreat. And here's what happens when you do. Your brain begins to learn. Slowly, it rewires itself. It sees that you didn't collapse. You weren't humiliated. You spoke, and the world didn't fall apart. In fact, maybe someone even listened. Maybe it went well. Maybe it wasn't nearly as bad as you feared. That's a new experience. And every time you create those new experiences, you're teaching your brain a different story. You replace "I'll mess this up" with "I handled that." You replace "I'm not good enough" with "I belonged in that moment." These new stories are real, they're earned, and they start stacking. Over time, your brain starts to create those stories automatically. Instead of fake fear, it starts generating real confidence. This is how you get your mind working for you, not against you. But it takes practice. You have to be consistent. You can't just wait for the fear to disappear before taking action. You have to act while the fear is still there, because that's the moment the training happens. Look around, and you'll see so many people stuck, not because they don't have talent, not because they don't have something to say, but because they believe everything their fearful mind tells them. They never speak because their brain whispers all the ways it could go wrong. They never start because their brain tells them they're not ready. But no one is ever fully ready. You become ready by moving forward. You've probably already missed moments in life because of these fear stories. You stayed silent when you had something important to say. You avoided people who could have helped you grow. You watched opportunities pass by because your mind created 100 fake reasons to sit still. That pattern doesn't change on its own. You have to interrupt it. And this isn't about being fearless. You don't have to remove fear to take action. You just need to recognize it for what it is, a false warning. Your brain is trying to protect you from discomfort, not danger. And discomfort is the price of growth. No one becomes confident without facing the uncomfortable. No one becomes a great communicator by waiting to feel ready. You speak through the nerves. You move through the hesitation. The goal is not to stop having fearful thoughts. The goal is to stop obeying them. You can feel them rise and still act. That's power. That's control. That's when you stop being run by old wiring and start building a new version of yourself, one that chooses the direction, not the fear. Start with small wins. Speak when you usually wouldn't. Share your thoughts in conversations where you tend to stay quiet. Say something even if it's not perfect. Every time you do this, you show your brain that the fear story didn't come true, and that's how you weaken the story. You don't fight it in your head, you defeat it with action, and notice how quickly the story tries to return. The moment you hesitate, the fear gets louder. That's your cue, not to stop, but to speak, to lean in, to take your space, because fear can't survive in movement. It needs stillness, it needs silence, and when you stop giving it that, it starts to fade. This work is personal. It's not flashy. No one else will see the internal battles you're fighting, but they will see the results. They'll see the way you speak with more clarity. They'll feel the strength in your presence. They'll notice that you don't get small in big moments anymore, and they'll assume you were born with confidence. But you'll know the truth. You earned it by facing the fake fear and training your brain to believe in your reality, not your imagination. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are simply someone who has lived too long, obeying fear stories that were never yours to begin with. Now it's time to take your mind back. Speak before the story starts. Move before the lie gets loud. Show your brain what's actually possible, and do it again, and again, and again, and again, and again, until confidence isn't something you chase, it's something you carry.
Chapter 6. Hold your ground when someone tries to test you. People will test you. They'll test your words, your energy, your self-respect and your boundaries. Not always with bad intentions, but simply because that's what people do. Some will challenge you to see how confident you really are. Some will poke at your weaknesses just to see if you notice. And some will try to walk over you without even realizing it. What matters isn't what they do. What matters is whether you hold your ground. Holding your ground doesn't mean being aggressive. It doesn't mean raising your voice or trying to prove that you're tougher. It means staying steady when someone tries to shake you. It means speaking clearly when someone tries to interrupt your truth. It means standing behind your words without shrinking. You don't move unless you choose to. You don't bend just to keep the peace. You don't stay silent to avoid discomfort. That's how real self-respect works.
And it's one of the strongest forms of confidence you can build. There are people who will question your decisions just to make you second-guess yourself. If you don't know how to hold your ground, you'll start to agree with them. You'll start to wonder if maybe they're right. And before you know it, you've lost trust in your own voice. But when you've done the inner work, when you know what you believe, when you speak with honesty, when you've built your self-worth, you don't flinch. You listen, but you don't collapse. You hear them out, but you don't hand over your strength. You don't need to win every debate. You don't need to convince everyone to agree with you. You just need to respect yourself enough to not back away from your position every time someone questions it. Confidence isn't about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about being rooted, and people can feel it. They know when they're talking to someone who won't fold just to avoid friction. Sometimes the person testing you won't raise their voice. They'll use sarcasm. They'll make small jokes that feel off. They'll try to corner you with questions that make you doubt your own words. And if you're not grounded, those little things will make you feel small. You'll start apologizing. You'll try to justify things that don't need defending. You'll chase their approval just to ease the pressure. But approval isn't the goal. Alignment is. Standing with yourself is. When you're grounded in your identity, you don't chase validation. You don't explain things that are already clear. You don't get pulled into games. You speak once, with clarity, and you let that be enough. If they don't like it, that's their work to do, not yours. Your job is to make sure you're not abandoning your voice just because someone is uncomfortable with your presence. There will be moments when someone pushes you at work, in your family, in your social life. They'll ask you something in a way that feels loaded. They'll make a statement that's meant to throw you off. In those moments, take a breath. Don't rush. Don't react from pressure. Speak slowly. Speak with presence. Look them in the eye and respond like someone who knows who they are. You don't need to mirror their energy. If they're intense, you don't need to match it. If they're condescending, you don't need to return the tone. You don't meet fire with fire. You meet it with steadiness, with clarity. That's what real power looks like. It's not explosive, it's composed, it's controlled, and it never begs to be noticed. Sometimes people test you because they're insecure. They don't know how to handle someone who won't collapse, and when you don't collapse, they feel exposed. Don't carry their discomfort. That's not yours. Your strength doesn't need to be explained or adjusted. You just keep showing up the same way, with calm, with presence, with grounded words that don't shake just because someone wants them to. And sometimes it won't be about confrontation. It will be subtle. Someone will ignore your opinion in a group. They'll talk over you. They'll act like your thoughts don't carry weight. These are the moments where silence can hurt you, because if you don't speak again, if you let it slide every time, you slowly tell yourself that your words don't matter. But they do, and you prove that to yourself, not by thinking it, but by speaking up when it counts. You don't need to argue, you don't need to get emotional, you just need to say it again with the same strength, the same presence. Your voice has power, but only when you use it, and using it doesn't mean shouting, it means not walking away from yourself when the pressure rises. Holding your ground also means knowing your values. If you don't know what matters to you, you'll be pushed around easily. People will talk circles around you, and you'll agree just to avoid discomfort. But when you know where you stand, when you've made decisions about what's important, you don't need to defend them emotionally, you just live by them. That energy speaks louder than any explanation ever could. People respect what's consistent. When they see that you don't back down just because the room gets uncomfortable, they listen. They may not always agree, but they pay attention, because they know you're not just saying what people want to hear, you're saying what's real to you. And you'll notice something powerful when you hold your ground. You start to feel different, not arrogant, not unshakable in every situation, just honest. You stop pretending. You stop adjusting your words to make others feel okay while you feel ignored. You stop trading your voice for approval. That shift changes how you carry yourself, and people respond to that. If someone challenges you in public, stay calm. If someone questions your ideas, answer with clarity. If someone mocks your tone or your background or your confidence, don't apologize. You don't owe anyone an explanation for being who you are. You don't need to shrink to keep things peaceful. Peace isn't the goal, truth is. And when your truth is spoken with calm certainty, peace often follows anyway. You'll face people who want to throw you off balance. Some do it to test your strength. Some do it to protect their ego. Some do it because they don't know a better way to connect. Your job is to not lose yourself in their reaction. Stay steady, stay focused, and above all, stay honest with yourself. You don't need permission to hold your space. You don't need anyone to agree with your point of view for it to be valid. Your words matter because they're yours. Your perspective matters because it's real, and your presence matters because it was earned through growth, not granted by others. Every time you hold your ground, you send a message to your mind. I trust myself. I know where I stand. I don't need to fold to be accepted. I don't need to perform to be respected. I just need to show up as me, and that's enough. That message rewires you. It builds something deep inside, and the next time someone tests you, you won't flinch, you won't panic. You won't rush to please, you'll respond, not react, and your presence will say everything before your words even begin.
Chapter 7. Look uncomfortable in the eye and keep speaking anyway. There will be moments when speaking doesn't feel natural, when your chest tightens, when your stomach turns, when your hands get cold and your thoughts speed up. That's discomfort. That's your body reacting to something unfamiliar. It's the moment most people step back. It's when they decide to stay quiet. But that's the exact moment you need to lean in. That's where your growth lives. When you look uncomfortable in the eye and keep speaking anyway, you teach yourself that discomfort isn't danger. It's just part of change. Most people wait for comfort before they speak. They think, I'll speak up when I feel more confident. But the truth is, confidence isn't what shows up before the words. It's what shows up because of them. You don't grow by escaping discomfort. You grow by staying with it. You build strength by speaking while it's there, not by waiting for it to disappear. Because if you always back down from uncomfortable moments, you never give yourself a chance to change your relationship with them. The fear of discomfort is often worse than the moment itself. Your mind builds it up. It tells you the silence will be awkward, that your words won't land, that people will stare, that you'll be exposed. But those fears are exaggerated. They're not truth. They're old habits. And those habits grow stronger every time you obey them. But the moment you speak through the fear, something shifts. You feel it in your body. A calm starts to rise. You realize nothing broke. No one laughed. No disaster happened. And just like that, you become someone who no longer runs from discomfort. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to stop making fear the reason you stay silent. The person you want to become is on the other side of those uncomfortable moments. Not behind them, not around them, through them. And every time you speak through tension, you collect proof that you're capable of more than your brain tells you. There will be people who make you feel small without saying much. A look, a pause, a reaction that makes you second-guess yourself. That's where most people give up. They see that reaction and think, I should stop. But you shouldn't. That's where you stand taller. That's when you keep speaking, because your voice matters, even when it's met with silence, even when it's not met with praise. Your job is not to please. Your job is to express, to say what's honest, to own your space. Growth doesn't happen in perfect moments. It happens when you stay with the uncomfortable ones, when you resist the urge to flee, when you show yourself that discomfort is something you can handle. Every time you do that, your tolerance grows. Your nervous system begins to relax faster. You learn to breathe through the heat, instead of letting it take over. That's how resilience is built, not by avoiding stress, but by learning you can carry it. It's easy to speak when everything feels smooth, when people are nodding, when the energy is light. But what about when there's tension, when the topic is heavy, when the other person doesn't give you much back? That's when your growth shows up. That's when you see what kind of presence you really carry. You don't have to force anything. You don't have to pretend. You just need to stay present. You don't need to rush. You don't need to overcompensate. Just keep going. Keep talking. One word after another. No panic. No retreat. Just honesty. That's where people start listening. Not because you're performing, but because you're real. And realness is rare. Discomfort teaches you who you are under pressure. And the more you speak while feeling it, the more you realize you don't break. You bend. You stretch, you get through it. That realization is everything, because once you've done it a few times, you stop being afraid of hard moments. You stop trying to avoid tension. You learn to face it directly and still be yourself.
Think about how many situations you've avoided just to dodge discomfort. Think about the people you didn't approach, the words you didn't say, the chances you let go, all because the moment felt too heavy. But that's not who you want to be anymore. You want to step in, you want to show up, you want to walk into conversations and feel like you belong there, no matter how intense the energy might be. And that starts by doing the hard thing. You see the discomfort coming, and instead of backing away, you meet it. You let it happen. You let your body feel the nerves. You don't fight it. You breathe, and you keep speaking. You don't need to conquer the feeling. You just need to stay in it long enough to realize it can't control you. What most people don't understand is that discomfort fades faster when you stay with it. When you run from it, it lingers, it waits for the next time. But when you stay and speak, the wave passes, and on the other side is confidence. Not the fake kind, not the kind you try to project, the kind that comes from knowing you faced something hard and didn't fold. You don't need to fix discomfort, you need to understand it. It's not a sign that something is wrong with you. It's a sign that you're doing something new, something meaningful, something that matters to you, and the more you run from that feeling, the more power you give it. So stop running, stop trying to make everything feel easy before you act. The most important work you'll ever do is learning how to stay with yourself when things get hard. The truth is, discomfort won't go away forever. Even the most confident speakers still feel it. The difference is, they've trained themselves not to retreat. They speak anyway, they lean in, they've built trust with themselves, and you can too, but you have to earn it, and the only way to earn it is to stop walking away from the moments that scare you. So when you feel the tension, stay calm. When your heart races, let it beat. When your hands shake, let them, but keep speaking, keep finishing your thought, keep taking up space. Because every time you do that, you reinforce something powerful, that you don't need to feel perfect to show up fully. You're not weak for feeling discomfort. You're human, but you're also strong enough to stay with it, strong enough to speak through it, strong enough to let the discomfort rise and still finish what you started. That's how you build the kind of confidence that lasts. Not by avoiding pressure, but by learning how to handle it with presence. You look it in the eye, you keep breathing, you keep speaking, you stay honest, and you walk out of that moment stronger than you were before. That's how you stop being afraid of your own power. That's how you stop shrinking in front of challenge. That's how you become the kind of person who doesn't disappear in hard moments. You don't need to be loud. You don't need to dominate. You just need to stay, look uncomfortable in the eye, and speak anyway. That's how you change your life. Chapter 8. Let silence happen without rushing to fill the gap. Silence makes a lot of people nervous. They feel the pause in a conversation and immediately think something is wrong. They assume the other person is bored, or judging them, or waiting for them to say something brilliant, so they rush to fill the space. They talk too fast, say things they don't mean, repeat themselves, or ask unnecessary questions, just to avoid that quiet moment. But silence is not a problem. In fact, learning to sit with silence without feeling like you have to fix it is one of the strongest communication habits you can build. Silence is part of every real conversation. It gives people time to think. It gives words time to land. It allows meaning to sink in. But most people don't see it that way. They treat silence like an emergency, like something awkward that must be covered up. That pressure to always say something turns simple conversations into stressful ones. It makes you feel like you're on stage instead of just being present with another person. If you want to speak with confidence, you have to be comfortable with pauses. You have to stop interpreting silence as a mistake. It's not. It's space. It's breathing room. And when you stop rushing to fill it, you start feeling in control. You give yourself room to think. You give the other person room to respond. You stop performing and start connecting. The people who speak with calm presence are not the ones who talk the most. They're the ones who know when not to talk. They don't jump in just to avoid discomfort. They don't speak over someone's thoughts. They don't fear a quiet moment. And because of that, their words carry more weight. They're not trying to impress. They're not trying to win approval. They're just present, fully present. When you practice allowing silence, you begin to notice how much more relaxed your conversations feel. You stop chasing reactions. You stop filling gaps with empty words. You start trusting that your presence is enough, even without constant noise. That kind of confidence doesn't just change how others see you, it changes how you see yourself. You no longer panic when things go quiet. You no longer feel the urge to explain yourself again and again. You begin to realize that being heard isn't just about talking, it's about timing, pacing, and being okay with space. And people respect that. They notice the difference. They lean in more. They listen deeper. Because you're not flooding them with words. You're giving them something to think about. When you rush to speak, you interrupt your own message. You don't give your words the space they need. And often you say more than you should. You reveal nervousness. You create confusion. And most importantly, you send a message to yourself that silence is something to fear. But it's not. It's a tool. One that, when used wisely, can create real impact. There's a certain kind of strength that comes from being able to sit in a quiet moment and feel no need to explain, no pressure to entertain, no desperation to be liked. You just stay steady. You wait. You let the moment breathe. And in that stillness, people often say more. They open up more. They listen more because the pressure is gone. They don't feel rushed. They don't feel managed. They feel safe. This is especially important in difficult conversations, when emotions are high, when topics are sensitive. That silence you fear might be the exact moment the other person needs to process something, and if you jump in too fast, you steal that space from them. You don't have to be the one holding up the whole conversation. Let the silence do some of the work. If someone asks you a question and you don't have the answer yet, pause. If someone shares something heavy and you don't know what to say, let there be a quiet second. If someone is reflecting on what you said, don't rush to follow it up. Let them have their space. That's how trust is built. That's how conversations deepen, not in the noise, but in the stillness between the words. Silence can also be a mirror. It reflects back how comfortable you are with yourself. If you can sit quietly and still feel grounded, you've built something solid inside. But if silence makes you anxious, that's a signal. Not that you're doing something wrong, but that you have an opportunity to grow, to become more secure in your own presence, to stop needing constant feedback just to feel okay. Confidence isn't about having something to say every second. It's about knowing that when you do speak, it comes from a place of calm, not fear, and that calm is built in the silent moments, when you learn to breathe, when you let your thoughts settle, when you stop filling time just to avoid feeling vulnerable. The truth is, silence won't hurt you. It's not a threat, but your reaction to it can either build your power or take it away. If you fill every gap with unnecessary words, people start to tune you out. But if you learn to pause, to breathe, to wait, you create tension in a good way. You draw people in. You show them that you're not afraid of space, that you trust your presence to carry a moment. And this applies even when you're nervous, maybe especially when you're nervous. The more you can sit with that feeling and not react, the more your nervous system calms down. You begin to trust that nothing bad will happen in that silence, that it's just part of the rhythm, that you don't need to prove yourself by always speaking, that you can hold the moment without breaking it. You'll notice something else too. The people who really command attention are the ones who aren't rushing. They speak slowly. They leave room. They don't try to impress. They connect. And you feel it. You remember it. Because they're not trying to fill time. They're trying to deliver something meaningful. And that's the energy you want to carry. Not a stream of words, but a calm, quiet strength behind every one you choose to say. So next time you feel the silence and the urge to fill it, stop, let it sit, let the discomfort rise if it wants to, let the space stretch, and just breathe. Notice what happens. Notice how the pressure softens. Notice how much more clear your next sentence becomes. That's presence. That's control. That's real communication. You don't have to chase every pause. You don't have to apologize for every moment that goes quiet. Just stay with it. Trust that your energy doesn't disappear when the words do. You're still there. You're still leading. And the people around you can feel that. This is where real connection starts. In the moments where nobody's trying to fill the silence with noise. In the moments where you sit with yourself, grounded, open and steady. Let silence happen. Let it do its work. Let it strengthen your presence. And know that in those quiet seconds, you're building something far more powerful than words ever could. Chapter 9. Say what you feel, even if it's not popular. There will come a time when your opinion isn't the popular one. When the group leans one way and your thoughts lean another. When everyone nods along to an idea and deep down you feel differently. In that moment, you will feel a quiet pressure to keep it to yourself. to go along just to avoid the discomfort, to stay silent so you don't stand out. But real confidence is measured by how willing you are to speak up when your voice doesn't blend in. Saying what you feel, even when it goes against the majority, isn't easy. It challenges your need to be liked. It tests your comfort with standing alone. But that's where growth lives. That's where character is built. Anyone can agree with the crowd, but it takes someone with self-respect to speak from honesty instead of approval. If you only speak when you're sure people will like it, you're not being honest, you're being strategic. You're not using your voice, you're managing it. That might feel safe, but it's not real. It slowly erodes your self-trust. Every time you silence your real thoughts to make others comfortable, you send a message to yourself that your truth isn't worth the risk. And over time, that message becomes a belief. You start thinking your real opinions should stay hidden. You start choosing comfort over growth. But here's the truth. Growth doesn't happen in comfort, and connection doesn't happen through pretending. If you want to feel strong in yourself, if you want others to truly respect you, you have to start saying what you actually think. Not to argue, not to attack, but because it's yours and it matters. When you speak from what you feel, even when it's not what people want to hear, you create something solid inside yourself. You build integrity. You become someone you can rely on. You stop adjusting your values to match the room. You stop worrying so much about approval. And that shift is powerful, because now you're not just present, you're real, and people notice that. They may not agree with you, but they respect the honesty. They remember the clarity. They trust that you're not hiding behind polite phrases or saying things just to fit in. Saying what you feel doesn't mean being rude. It doesn't mean trying to be controversial for attention. It means being honest in a respectful way. It means having the courage to share your perspective without trying to force others to accept it. There's a difference between speaking up to connect and speaking up to control. What you want is connection. Real connection only happens when you stop filtering your thoughts to match someone else's comfort zone. The fear of being misunderstood is what keeps most people quiet. They imagine being judged. They imagine rejection. They imagine people turning away. But what if they don't? What if the moment you speak your truth, someone else feels permission to speak theirs? What if your courage becomes someone else's spark? That's how leadership begins. Not with the loudest voice, but with the most honest one. You won't always be agreed with. That's not the goal. The goal is not to win every discussion. The goal is to stop betraying your own voice, to stop shrinking yourself to avoid being different, to stop holding back what you really think just because it makes the moment easier. Temporary comfort isn't worth long-term regret, and hiding who you are for approval is the fastest way to lose yourself. When you speak honestly, you start attracting the right people, people who value depth, people who want real conversations, people who aren't just looking for someone to agree with them, but someone who makes them think. And yes, you'll also face resistance. You'll make some people uncomfortable. You'll be challenged, but that's okay. Disagreement is not disrespect. And not everyone who challenges you is your enemy. Some of the most important moments in life happen when you say the thing that no one else is willing to say, when you express the thought that's been sitting in the back of everyone's mind, waiting for someone to be bold enough to voice it. That person can be you. And when it is, you shift the whole energy of the room. You bring honesty to the surface. You raise the standard for what communication can be. It doesn't always require a speech. Sometimes it's a few words, a simple statement, a quiet truth, but it has to be real. It has to come from you, not from a need to be accepted. The second you stop chasing agreement and start valuing honesty, you take back your power. There will be moments when your opinion feels small, when you doubt whether it's even worth saying, but it is, because your truth isn't measured by how many people clap. It's measured by how much it aligns with who you are. If you keep abandoning that, you'll end up building a life that doesn't feel like yours, a life full of polite conversations and empty connections. The cost of silence is high. It doesn't just affect the conversation, it affects your identity. You start losing faith in your own thoughts. You begin to hesitate more. You question yourself even when you're right. And worst of all, you train your mind to believe that your truth only matters when it's popular. But the truth matters all the time, not just when it's easy to say, especially when it's hard. because those moments shape you, they strengthen you, they teach you how to be your own foundation, and once you've got that, the outside noise stops being so loud. You don't need to turn every disagreement into a debate. You don't need to win the argument. All you need to do is say it clearly, say it calmly, and say it without needing to be praised. That's the kind of confidence that lasts, the kind that isn't shaken by reaction, the kind that keeps you grounded when things get tense. There's peace in knowing you were honest, even if it made things uncomfortable, even if the room went quiet, even if someone pushed back. That peace doesn't come from getting your way, it comes from staying true to yourself. And that's the kind of peace no one can take from you. So speak what you feel, even if your voice shakes, even if you're the only one who sees it that way, even if it would be easier to stay quiet, because your voice was not given to you so you could blend in. It was given to you so you could express what's real, and that matters more than comfort. The world doesn't need more silence. It needs more honesty. It needs more people who speak from the heart, not just from the crowd. And the more you practice this, the more you start to feel like yourself again, not someone edited by fear, but someone free, someone strong, someone who knows that truth isn't about being right, it's about being real.
Chapter 10. Act like you've done this 100 times before. When you walk into a room, you're not just showing up physically, you're bringing your beliefs, your self-image, and your internal preparation with you. People feel your energy long before you say your first word. If you act like you're unsure, they'll treat you like you are. If you act like you don't belong, they'll respond as if you don't. But if you act like you've done this 100 times before, even when it's your first time, everything changes. You stop waiting to feel confident, and you start behaving like someone who already knows how to lead a moment. That mindset puts you in control. Acting like you've done it before isn't about pretending or faking anything. It's not about arrogance or ego. It's about mentally preparing yourself to meet the moment with calm, with control, and with belief. It's about telling yourself, "I've got this," even when your nerves say otherwise. It's showing up like you're already the kind of person who handles these situations with ease. And once you behave like that consistently, you start becoming that person for real. The problem most people face is that they keep waiting to feel ready before they act ready. They think confidence comes first, but that's backward. You behave your way into confidence. You don't wait to feel it. You prove to yourself that you can handle the moment. The way you stand, the way you speak, the way you breathe, all of it sends a message to your mind and to the people around you. When that message says, "I belong here," things begin to shift. There will be moments when you walk into unfamiliar situations, a meeting, a stage, a conversation with someone you've never spoken to before. The nerves will show up. Your heart might beat faster. Your voice might feel a little tight. That's natural, but your behavior doesn't have to reflect that nervousness. You can feel it and still carry yourself with composure. You can acknowledge the pressure without shrinking under it. You can walk through the door like you've done it before, even if you haven't. And the truth is, you've probably done something like it. Maybe not that exact situation, but something similar. You've talked to people, you've handled tough moments, you've made it through awkward conversations, so this is not brand new. Your mind just wants to convince you it is, so that it can protect you from discomfort. But you don't need protection, you need to step in fully. The way you speak matters. Speak like your words carry weight. Speak like your ideas matter. Not rushed, not mumbled, not filled with filler words. Calm, clear, direct. The more you practice this, the more you notice that people respond to you differently. They stop looking past you. They stop waiting for someone else to lead. They listen, because you sound like someone who believes in what they're saying. The way you move matters. Slow down. Rushed movements communicate anxiety. When you move with control, when you take your time, you communicate power. That doesn't mean dragging your feet or forcing anything. It means being deliberate, owning your space, not being in a hurry to prove yourself, because you don't need to. The way you look at people matters. Make eye contact. Don't stare people down, but don't look away too quickly either. Meet their eyes long enough to show them you're fully present, that you're not afraid to be seen, because when you act like someone who's done it before, you show people they can trust you, not just to talk, but to handle pressure, to stay centered, to stay honest. This applies everywhere. Job interviews, public speaking, first impressions, challenging conversations.
Every one of these moments is an opportunity to train yourself to behave like the version of you that doesn't back down. You already have that version inside you. You just have to start choosing it, not waiting for it, choosing it, acting from it. And the more you do, the more natural it becomes. When you act like you've done it before, you don't hesitate to take initiative. You don't wait for permission. You don't second-guess every move. You step forward when it's your turn. You speak when you have something to say. You don't over-explain yourself. You don't apologize for existing. You carry yourself like someone who has earned their place. And that behavior builds your confidence faster than any motivational quote ever could. Confidence isn't a personality trait. It's a pattern of action. It's how you behave when it counts. And that behavior can be learned, but only if you stop feeding the habit of self-doubt. Stop rehearsing worst-case scenarios in your head. Stop telling yourself you're not ready. You'll never feel fully ready. That's not a weakness. That's human. But the people who grow are the ones who act anyway. The voice in your head will tell you you're not qualified, that others are better, that you'll mess it up. And the way you respond to that voice determines how you live. If you listen to it, you stay small. If you challenge it, if you stand up anyway, speak anyway, show up anyway, you change the way your brain sees you. And that changes how everyone else sees you too. You might not have done it 100 times before, but that doesn't matter. You act like you have, not to fake anything, but to give yourself permission to grow into it. You practice that energy until it feels natural, until it feels like home, and over time, you stop acting. You are that person, and you don't need to prove it to anyone. Your presence does that on its own. It's easy to believe that the confident people have something you don't, but they don't. They've just been willing to behave a certain way long enough to build belief. They've stood tall even when they felt unsure. They've spoken clearly even when their thoughts weren't perfect. They've walked into rooms like they belonged, even when they weren't sure of the outcome. And that's what made them grow. That's what gave them presence, not certainty, action. So you stop waiting. You stop hesitating. You walk in and you speak up. You look people in the eye. You sit with your back straight. You use your voice like it means something, because it does. You take up space, not to dominate, but to honor yourself. That kind of energy isn't loud. It's quiet, but powerful. It says, I'm here. I've got this, and I don't need to prove anything to feel it. This is how you take the fear out of new situations. You stop labeling them as new. You stop saying, I've never done this before, and start saying, this is just another moment to show up as me. And then you do, not once, not just when you feel brave, but every time, over and over, until your mind no longer needs to be convinced. Eventually, your body remembers, your nervous system calms faster, your speech becomes clearer, your energy stabilizes, not because the situation changed, but because you changed. You trained yourself to act like someone who's been here before, and now you are. You lead with steadiness. You move with certainty. You don't shrink to make others comfortable. You don't wait for the perfect line to speak. You stand up, you speak up, and you do it again, because that's who you are now. Someone who doesn't wait to be ready. Someone who shows up like they've done it 100 times before, and now nothing can stop them from doing it 100 times more. If you've made it this far, then you already know confidence isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. It's about showing up, using your voice, and trusting that what you have to say matters. You don't need to wait for permission. You don't need to sound like anyone else. You just need to keep practicing until speaking with confidence feels natural. Now it's your turn to apply what you've learned. Speak up today. Start small if you have to, but start. Every time you speak with confidence, you're building a stronger version of yourself. If this video helped you think differently, made you feel stronger, or gave you something real to work on, come back to it. Watch it again when you need a reminder. There's more to learn, more to grow, and more to become, and we'll be right here to guide you every step of the way. Speak up, show up, and keep coming back.